The rain had been falling for hours. It slicked the glass of Sarah's apartment window, warping the skyline of the city beyond into something ghostly. She stood barefoot on the cold floor, one hand resting on the sill, the other gripping a torn envelope. No return address, no stamp, just her name in sharp black ink. Sarah Holt. Her twin brother had been missing for 6 months. No calls, no text, no body, until now. The letter inside the envelope was brief, hurried, written in her brother's distinct scrawl. Sarah, if you get this, don't tell anyone. Don't trust the police. Don't trust the press. Come to where the fire started. Beneath it, you'll find the truth. A. She read it again, lips barely moving, trying to make sense of it. The fire. There had been hundreds in the city's long history, but they both knew which one he meant. Ashmore Station, the underground train hub that had mysteriously burned down 147 years ago. No one rebuilt it, no one went near it, but her brother had always been obsessed with it. Later that night, the subway tunnel beneath Ashmore was sealed off with rusted gates and weather-worn signs that warned of unstable ground and gas leaks. Sarah moved in silence, flashlight flickering, her camera hanging at her side like a trusted weapon. Each step down the broken concrete stairwell felt heavier than the last. The air changed, colder, denser, laced with something old. She found the hatch near what was once the east platform, just like he said it would be. The lock was broken. With trembling hands, she lifted it open, releasing a gust of warm, dry air that smelled like stone and something else, something alive. Sarah stared into the darkness below. A staircase descended into pitch black. She hesitated, her pulse thudding in her ears. Her brother's voice echoed in her mind. Beneath it, you'll find the truth. She took the first step, then another, and the darkness swallowed her whole. The stairs went deeper than Sarah thought possible. Her flashlight trembled in her grip, barely cutting through the thick air. Dust clung to the beam like fog. The silence was unnatural. Not the quiet of emptiness, but the kind that waited. After what felt like forever, her foot hit solid ground. The stairwell ended in a narrow corridor carved from stone, the walls covered in faded symbols and broken sconces. The floor beneath her boots was smooth, too smooth to be natural. Something had built this. Sarah's breath fogged in the cold, her eyes scanning the walls. She raised her camera and snapped a picture. The flash lit the corridor for a second, just enough to show a faded mural. It showed people, or something close. Tall figures draped in fabric, their eyes wiscied and hollow. Behind them, a city burning. One of them held something in their arms, something wrapped in cloth. A child? Sarah blinked. The image burned behind her eyelids long after the flash faded. Then, a sound, soft. Breathing? She spun, flashlight raised, no one. Her heart thudded. Hello, she called out, voice rough in the silence. No answer. She turned back, taking cautious steps down the corridor. Around the next bend, the air shifted again. Warmer, brighter. A pale light glowed at the end of the hall. She moved toward it and stepped into a hidden chamber. It opened like a cathedral underground. High arched ceilings supported by thick stone columns, moss creeping down their sides. Dozens of torches lined the walls, already lit, their flames unmoving, unnatural. And standing in the center, a man. He was tall, lean, dark-skinned, with a long cloak draped across his shoulder and hair coiled tightly to his scalp. His eyes reflected the torchlight like amber glass. He looked right at her. You shouldn't be here, he said, calm but sharp. The council will not be pleased. Sarah froze. Who are you? He took a step closer, but not threatening. Curious. The better question is who you are. No one comes down here unless they're called. She hesitated. I'm looking for my brother. The man's expression didn't change. I think he made it down here. His name is Aaron Holt. At that, something flickered in his eyes, recognition. But he said nothing. Instead, he turned. Follow me, Sarah Holt, he said over his shoulder. If your brother is still alive, he may already be beyond your reach. Sarah followed him, this stranger who knew her name, into the warm, torch-lit passage. The stone beneath her feet hummed faintly, like it remembered every step ever taken on it. Her thoughts raced. Aaron was here. This man knew something. And the council? What was that? Wait, she said, breathless. You still haven't told me who you are. He didn't slow his pace. I'm called Ezran. That will do for now. You're one of them, aren't you? The ones who live down here? Ezran gave a dry smile without turning. I was born in the ashes, raised in them. I will likely die here. So yes, I'm one of them. They exited the corridor and stepped into a world that shouldn't have been real. A massive cavern stretched before her, wide as a stadium, lit by glowing crystals embedded in the ceiling like stars. Stone bridges crossed over slow-moving rivers, and small homes carved into the rock glowed from within. Vines dangled from the upper walls, swaying slightly even though there was no wind. A city, an entire world, alive beneath her own. Sarah stopped, stunned. This isn't possible. Not everything hidden is impossible, Ezran said. Some things are just kept quiet. Her voice dropped. How long has this place been here? Ezran's expression grew hard, since before the surface knew what fire could do. Far below, unseen by Sarah, deep beneath the city, a figure watched a mirror carved into obsidian. The image showed her, standing beside Ezran, eyes wide in awe. She's arrived, the woman muttered. Her robes shimmered with runes that pulsed faintly. Behind her, 3 others stood in silence, masked still, like shadows with form. Do we tell the others? One finally asked. No, the woman replied. Not yet. Let her walk deeper. Let the city speak to her. If she's truly the one the fire never touched. She turned from the mirror. We won't need to tell her anything. Back in the city, Ezran led Sarah through narrow alleys between carved dwellings, people watching silently from behind curtains and stone doorways. They looked normal, human, but older, heavier with silence, like they carried memories the surface world had forgotten. Some wore symbols on their arms, others amulets made of ash stone. Children peeked out. One whispered, Is she the Fireborn? Ezran stopped before a small dome structure. Rest here. You'll meet with the council at dusk. I don't want to wait. If my brother's in danger, Ezran met her eyes. Sarah, if Aaron is still alive, finding him too fast might be the most dangerous thing of all. And with that, he left her in silence. Sarah sat alone, surrounded by stone and shadow, not knowing that someone else was already watching her from the roof above. Sarah paced the small room Ezran had left her in, windowless, carved entirely from stone, with a simple bed and a bowl of clear water placed on a table. There were no clocks, no way to know how long she'd been down here, just the slow burn of unease growing in her chest. Why did Ezran leave so quickly? Why was everyone watching her? And why did that word, Fireborn, sound like a threat disguised as reverence? She turned as the door creaked open, but it wasn't Ezran. A man stepped in casually, leaning against the doorway like he owned the room. He wore no cloak, just a loose linen shirt and dark trousers, both slightly dusty. His skin was olive-toned, his eyes pale green, too light for this underground world. His hair was messy, almost golden brown, falling into his face as he grinned. "You must be Sarah." She straightened, instinctively on guard. "Who are you?" He smiled wider. "That depends. Who do you want me to be?" Sarah didn't answer. She was already noting the details. No insignia, no visible weapon, but confidence. Too much confidence. "You're not with Ezran, are you?" "Oh, he knows me," the man said, stepping closer. "Doesn't like me, but he knows me. Name's Milo." She didn't move. "And what do you want?" Milo tilted his head. "To help. Maybe to warn. Depends how smart you are." "About what?" He glanced at the ceiling as if checking for eavesdroppers, then lowered his voice. "They're not going to let you leave, Sarah. Not now. Not after you entered the lower gate. The council believes it marks you, like it marked your brother." Sarah's heart skipped. "Aaron was here?" "Oh yes," Milo said, now serious. "But he found something he shouldn't have. And now he's gone." "Gone where?" Milo looked her dead in the eyes. "That's what you're going to find out. But trust me, not everyone down here wants you to know." Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Ezran stood before the council. 5 shadowed figures seated in a crescent stone chamber, lit by pale flame. The central figure, a woman with silver tattoos etched into her scalp, leaned forward. "She spoke his name," Ezran said quietly. "She knows about the fire." "She's a threat," one counselor muttered. "She's a key," said another. The woman in the center turned to Ezran. "You must guide her carefully. She carries something that hasn't awakened. But if she falls into his hands—" "She won't," Ezran cut in. "I won't let Milo near her." The council leader's eyes narrowed. "You're already too late." Back in Sarah's room, Milo had stepped closer. "You don't have to trust me," he said, voice low, almost a whisper. "But if you want to find Aaron, you'll need to stop listening to Ezran." Sarah watched him closely. "Why should I believe anything you say?" Milo's eyes darkened, not playful anymore. "Because," he said, backing toward the door, "the last time someone believed him, they were never seen again." And then he was gone. Sarah stood frozen. 2 men, 2 paths, 1 city full of secrets. And somewhere in the depths, Aaron, or what was left of him. Sarah didn't sleep. Even after Milo led her to a safer chamber, somewhere off the mapped paths of the ashes, her mind pulsed with images she couldn't shake. Aaron in chains, the glowing tree, the mask in the dark. And that voice, "Don't trust any of them." She rose at the first flicker of light from the crystal lanterns overhead. She had questions, and one man had to answer them. The council hall. Later, Ezran stood near the edge of the platform, eyes closed, meditating before a basin of cold fire. The flames gave off no heat, only a pale blue glow. Sarah stepped into the room like a gust of wind. No greeting, no hesitation. "You lied to me." Ezran opened his eyes slowly. "I told you pieces of the truth. You didn't tell me about the mirror, or Aaron, or the prophecy." Ezran sighed. "You weren't ready." Sarah stepped closer. "I decide when I'm ready." He studied her. "Then tell me, what do you think the Fireborn is?" She didn't blink. "A scapegoat, a story, something the council uses to control the city." Ezran looked away. "Once maybe, but not now. Now, the Fireborn is real. The mirror confirmed it. You bear the mark." She laughed, bitter. "And what does that mean? You're going to chain me like my brother? Sacrifice me for your dying city?" His jaw clenched. I never wanted to involve you. But you did, she snapped. And now you have to deal with me. She pulled something from her pocket, the shard of black glass Milo had given her, chipped from the mirror. I saw him, Ezrin. He's alive, and he's terrified. Ezrin stepped forward slowly. Sarah, you don't understand what he's become. She flinched. What does that mean? Before he could answer, the ground shook. A deep rumble echoed from the lower chambers, followed by screams. Ezrin's eyes went wide. They're breaching the undergates. Who? Sarah asked, but he was already moving. Stay here. Of course she didn't. Moments later in the lower tunnels, Sarah followed the panic. Citizens in gray robes ran in the opposite direction, shouting about a fire spreading where no torches burned. She reached the edge of a vast corridor and froze. Flames, real flames, licking the walls, crawling along the ceiling like living vines. And in the center of it, Milo, kneeling, surrounded. His eyes were closed, his hands open. The fire danced around him, yet did not touch him. Then he looked up, straight at her. I didn't call it, he said, breathless, but it came for you. What do you mean? He stood slowly, the fire parting for him like a curtain. The fire knows what you are, Sarah. It recognizes its own. Her breath caught, and then before she could reply, the fire leapt from the walls, straight at her. The air was ice. Sarah's hands trembled as she reached for the torch on the wall, but nothing happened. The flame was gone, not snuffed, taken. She wasn't alone. The masked figure moved without sound, circling her like a predator. You saw him in the glass, the voice said, distorted, neither male nor female. You opened the wound. I saw my brother, Sarah replied, stepping back. No, the figure hissed. You saw what he became, what the city made of him. She gritted her teeth. Where is he? The masked one paused, then tilted its head. You're not ready for that answer. And before Sarah could move, the figure vanished into the dark, like smoke sucked into stone. Minutes later, Milo found her stumbling back into the lighted corridor, her skin pale, eyes wide. You saw it, he said, not even asking. The mirror. She nodded. You saw Aaron? A whisper. He's alive, but trapped in something wrong. Milo cursed under his breath and took her arm. We need to leave this tunnel now. Why? Because anyone who sees the mirror is marked. You're not safe anymore. Not from them, and not from Ezrin. She yanked her arm free. Ezrin's trying to help me. Milo turned to her, eyes flashing. Ezrin's playing the council's game. You think he cares about you? He's following orders. They want to use you. For what? He lowered his voice. You are the Fireborn. Or at least, that's what they've convinced themselves. What does that even mean? Milo looked at her carefully, choosing his words like they were blades. It means they think you're the one who'll end their curse or destroy their world. Elsewhere, in a darkened chamber, Ezrin stood before the council once more. She's unstable, said one. The fire is waking in her. It cannot be allowed to burn uncontrolled. She needs time, Ezrin argued. She isn't like the others. The lead councilwoman leaned forward, eyes cold. She already broke the seal. She saw the mirror. He reached for her. Ezrin's voice dropped. She's still human. Then prove it, the councilwoman said, before the fire consumes her and everything else we've buried. Back in the tunnels, Sarah followed Milo into a quiet passage, deeper into the lower quarter. Where are we going? She asked. He looked over his shoulder. To someone who doesn't answer to the council. They turned a corner, and Sarah gasped. Before her stood a massive tree, ancient and glowing faintly gold, growing impossibly from solid rock. Its roots cracked the stone floor. Its branches stretched up into the black ceiling, and beneath it sat a woman, not old, not young. Her skin shimmered like ash. Her eyes opened and locked on Sarah. "Welcome," the woman said softly. "Daughter of fire." Sarah's breath caught. The woman stood. "Your brother came to me once, broken, crying, begging to forget what he'd seen." "What did he see?" The woman raised a hand, and the mirror appeared again, swirling in the air like liquid glass. Sarah stared. Inside, Aaron was kneeling, bound by chains of smoke, eyes glowing faintly gold. And then he spoke from inside the mirror. "Sarah, don't trust any of them." Sarah didn't sleep, even after Milo led her to a safer chamber, somewhere off the mapped paths of the ashes. Her mind pulsed with images she couldn't shake. Aaron in chains, the glowing tree, the mask in the dark, and that voice, "Don't trust any of them." She rose at the first flicker of light from the crystal lanterns overhead. She had questions, and one man had to answer them. The council hall. Later, Ezran stood near the edge of the platform, eyes closed, meditating before a basin of cold fire. The flames gave off no heat, only a pale blue glow. Sarah stepped into the room like a gust of wind. No greeting, no hesitation. "You lied to me." Ezran opened his eyes slowly. "I told you pieces of the truth. You didn't tell me about the mirror, or Aaron, or the prophecy." Ezran sighed. "You weren't ready." Sarah stepped closer. "I decide when I'm ready." He studied her. "Then tell me, what do you think the Fireborn is?" She didn't blink. "A scapegoat, a story, something the council uses to control the city." Ezran looked away. "Once maybe, but not now. Now, the Fireborn is real. The mirror confirmed it. You bear the mark." She laughed, bitter. "And what does that mean? You're going to chain me like my brother? Sacrifice me for your dying city?" His jaw clenched. "I never wanted to involve you." "But you did," she snapped. "And now you have to deal with me." She pulled something from her pocket, the shard of black glass Milo had given her, chipped from the mirror. "I saw him, Ezran. He's alive, and he's terrified." Ezran stepped forward slowly. "Sarah, you don't understand what he's become." She flinched. "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, the ground shook. A deep rumble echoed from the lower chambers, followed by screams. Ezran's eyes went wide. "They're breaching the undergates." "Who?" Sarah asked, but he was already moving. "Stay here." Of course she didn't. Moments later, in the lower tunnels, Sarah followed the panic. Citizens in gray robes ran in the opposite direction, shouting about a fire spreading where no torches burned. She reached the edge of a vast corridor and froze. Flames, real flames, licking the walls, crawling along the ceiling like living vines. And in the center of it, Milo, kneeling, surrounded. His eyes were closed, his hands open. The fire danced around him, yet did not touch him. Then he looked up, straight at her. "I didn't call it," he said, breathless, "but it came for you." "What do you mean?" He stood slowly, the fire parting for him like a curtain. "The fire knows what you are, Sarah. It recognizes its own." Her breath caught, and then before she could reply, the fire leapt from the walls, straight at her. The first burn, the flames rushed toward her like a living beast, teeth bared and roar rising. There was no time to run. Sarah's breath caught. She threw her arms up instinctively, and the fire stopped. It hovered just inches from her skin, swirling around her like a living storm, not burning, not biting, breathing, recognizing. Milo stood still, watching her with wide eyes. "You feel it, don't you?" Sarah didn't answer. Her hands were trembling, but not from fear, from power. Something inside her pulsed, like a heartbeat that had always been there, just buried. The flames responded. They moved with her breath, her thoughts. "I don't understand," she whispered. Milo took a cautious step forward. "You don't need to understand it. You just need to stop denying it. She turned sharply. Ezran said the Fireborn was a myth. He lied, Milo said, because he feared what would happen if it was real. Sarah slowly lowered her arms. The flames settled at her feet, flickering low and steady like loyal animals returning to their master. Elsewhere, deep within the council chamber, Ezran burst through the stone doors, breath ragged. Where is she? The councilwoman stood, eyes unreadable. She's with him. She activated it, Ezran said. I felt the heat rise. It answered her. A long silence. Then the woman spoke. Then it begins again. Back with Sarah, Milo led her through a narrow tunnel now glowing with firelight. Her fire. It trailed behind her in a gentle wake, like the tail of a comet. I need to find Aaron, she said. You will, Milo promised, but you need to know the whole story first. What story? He paused before a hidden door. The truth the council buried. He opened it. Inside, the walls were covered in drawings and symbols, maps, bloodlines, and names that had been erased in the city above. At the center of the room, a mural, a woman surrounded by flame, chains at her feet, her eyes glowing gold. Sarah stepped closer. The woman looked like her. Milo spoke quietly. The original Fireborn wasn't a destroyer, Sarah. She was a liberator. She didn't burn the city. She tried to save it. And the council, they twisted it. They told a different story. And they've been waiting for her return, or trying to prevent it. Sarah turned slowly toward Milo. You think I'm her? I think you're the only one left who can finish what she started. Somewhere, far below, Aaron sat in the dark, chains humming with quiet magic. His eyes, once soft, now flickered faint gold. He whispered Sarah's name, and the chains creaked, beginning to crack. The chains began to crack. The mural glowed faintly behind her. Sarah stood in silence, still absorbing Milo's words. His revelation. Her heartbeat had steadied, but the fire still pulsed in her blood like it was waiting, listening. If I'm really the Fireborn, she said slowly, why didn't they kill me when I arrived? Milo's face darkened. Because they need you, but only as long as they can control you. And if they can't, they'll try to destroy you, just like they did the first one. Sarah turned to the mural again. Her likeness, the same fire, same eyes, etched into stone by hands long dead. She whispered, what did she do that was so dangerous? Milo approached the far wall, brushing dust from a carved sigil. She broke the underbinding. She shattered the chains they used to hold the city together. And when she tried to free the others, the council turned on her. They rewrote her story into something terrifying. Sarah took a breath. Aaron, he was trying to finish what she started, wasn't he? Yes, Milo said, but he didn't have the fire. Only you do. Meanwhile, Ezran stood at the edge of the mirror hall, staring down into the cracked obsidian. He looked tired, haunted. The council surrounded him in silence. She's awakened, the councilwoman said coldly. I know, Ezran replied. You brought her down here, another hissed. This is your fault. She was coming either way, Ezran snapped. You lied to me. You said the prophecy wasn't real. The lead councilwoman narrowed her eyes. It wasn't, until you made it so. Ezran turned away. He was beginning to realize he hadn't just been a guardian. He'd been a pawn, in the lower caverns. Sarah walked slowly into the chamber where Aaron had first appeared in the mirror. She knelt near the glass, heart pounding. Are you here? She whispered. The mirror didn't speak, but it did ripple. The air around it vibrated. Energy surged, warm and sharp. Then, a crack. One of the chains that bound Aaron's wrists split, a glowing fissure cutting through the iron. Aaron gasped, lifted his head. Sarah? He croaked. Her breath caught. I'm here. He looked broken, bruised, changed, but his voice still carried the same strength. They're coming, he said. They know you're awake. You have to run. But Sarah shook her head. Number not this time. Elsewhere. The council gathered their guards. Milo vanished into the lower levels to rally those who'd been silenced for years. Ezrin stood between two choices, and Sarah, her palms glowing faintly now, stepped out of the chamber and into the city. Not as a visitor, not as a girl looking for her brother, but as the Fireborn, and the city felt it. When the fire speaks, the city was burning, not with destruction, but with awakening. Then glowing fissures cracked across the stone foundations. Fire flowed like rivers down long-forgotten tunnels. The people of the ashes, long silent, stepped from their homes and watched as the flames rose, not to consume them, but to remember. Sarah stood at the threshold of the mirror hall, her eyes golden, her hands pulsing with light. Beside her, Aaron limped forward, free but not whole. His chains had shattered hours ago, but their memory still clung to him like ash. Across the chamber, the council waited, cloaked, defiant, prepared to bind her once more. But Sarah no longer needed answers from them. She was the answer. Ezrin stepped between them, torn but resolute. "She's not here to destroy you," he said quietly. "She's here to end the lie." The lead councilwoman's voice cracked with rage. "She will bring ruin to everything." Sarah stepped forward, fire trailing her like a cloak. "You already did that. I'm just showing everyone the truth." The obsidian mirror behind them flared to life. Images spilled out, not just of Aaron or Sarah, but of every forgotten Fireborn before her. Names erased, voices silenced, their stories returned to the air, written in flame and light. And then, the hall itself began to break. The walls crumbled as the city's oldest chains, buried deep, began to fall apart. What the Fireborn had started generations ago was now complete. Aaron turned to Sarah. "What happens now?" She looked at him, then at the people gathering behind them. Ezrin, Milo, the children of the ashes, the broken, the forgotten, the ones waiting for light. "We give the city back," she said, "not just to remember, but to rebuild." Weeks later, Sarah sat by the ancient tree where the mirror had first spoken to her. The city above would never know the full truth. The ashes remained hidden, but no longer oppressed, free. Aaron, recovering slowly, taught the children how to navigate both light and dark. Milo had vanished again, leaving only a note that said, "When you set fire to a lie, someone always lights another. I'll be watching." Ezrin remained behind, not as a council agent, but as a teacher of what once was and what must never be again. And Sarah? She walked the edges of fire and stone, not as a chosen one, but as someone who had chosen, then come to realize that indeed, after everything that had happened, beneath the ashes of old lies, the fire had not come to destroy. It had come to remind, and Sarah had become its voice.